It is time for the Litter Media Game of the Week preview show. Adena at Southeastern. Both teams looking for their first win in the SVC as the conference is underway for most of Ohio. There are still some conferences that have yet to jump into play, but we'll go over some of those. For instance, like FAC doesn't begin until next week, which is week 6 of the season. But here we are, week 4, and looking forward to the matchups that we have to share with you today. But we want to start off. I'm Dan Ramey. He's Mike Smith. We want to take a moment to take a look at last week's contests and give a quick review here. The OCC had its opener last week, and Teays Valley had a come-from-behind win over Lancaster. It looked like Lancaster was going to run away with things in the first half, but what happened was a change of momentum. Right towards halftime, we started to see Lancaster seem like they had everything going their way, but then Teays Valley got the offense cranked up, and the defense did the job as well. The quarterback, Burke, for Lancaster had made, I think it was 8 straight passes complete, and then in the fourth quarter, he had 2 interceptions and an incompletion. And then that kind of fell apart for them. But meanwhile, Teays Valley was able to capitalize on the miscues.
Yeah, the defense shut Lancaster down in the first 3 possessions of the second half. One of those was a pick. But the defense just, I think they got 5 downs in the first 2 possessions before having to punt. And that was the spark that they needed to get the offense going. And I think you, of course, if you heard the post-game, Coach Cross said, we told them at halftime we just weren't coming out and hitting them. It's more like catching them instead of firing out into them. And, well, they came out fired up, and it turned things around.
You can see the highlight video from last week's game of the week when you go to our YouTube channel, and you'll see that Gray Griffin was running into the end zone on the thumbnail photo for that highlight. And just look for that on our YouTube channel, and you can see where he's running in for that 81-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. That really got him going. All right, SVC action. St. Trace, Scioto, Paine Valley, and Piketon are unscathed after week 1.
Pioneers were looked at by many as one of the preseason favorites. They had a very rough non-conference schedule, but that makes you tough for your conference. So they showed that in week 1 against Adena.
And they lost a quarterback due to injury, and you get a couple weeks under your belt, get some of that live action, you become a better player. And we may have seen that happen this past weekend. Scioto blanking Westfall. Paine Valley rolled over Southeastern, and Piketon shut out Huntington. In other area action, Mid-State League, the Buckeye, Logan Elm, won the backyard brawl.
Braves coming off a disappointing loss to Miami Trace in the non-conference. And this one is a coin toss a lot of times. But Logan Elm, I think, was up 21-10 at one point, ended up winning by 18.
Bloom Carroll had a nice game against Amanda Clear Creek. Was that Clear Creek's first loss, or are they 2-2 now?
I don't know the answer to that. I know they beat Adena and Scioto, so they had 2 wins at least prior to this.
Yeah. And they lost to Circleville, so yes, they are 2-2. Fairfield Union, a winner over Hamilton Township, and Fairfield Union's had a couple of wins here the last couple of weeks. On the Cardinal side of things, Miller beating Millersport, Byrne Union over Bishop Rosecrans, and Grove City Christian picks up a win over Fairfield Christian. In the SOC, Waverly, they bounced back from their loss to Scioto the week before, picked up a 27-21 win over Valley. The Berg picked up their first win on the season, beating Northwest.
0-3, first time since 1969, and they won convincingly.
And Minford nips Oak Hill 22-21. Portsmouth, no trouble with Gallia Academy. Coal Grove and Fairland also picking up wins. In the TVC, Trimble, Vinton County, Athens is rolling, and Nelsonville, York, 48-7 over River Valley, and Southern a winner over Green. I talked with Rex Pierce earlier this morning. He says they've got Athens this weekend, so we'll see how that works out for that crew that we had here a couple of weeks ago. And the non-league, Chillicothe went down to Portsmouth West and got beat on a field goal.
Yeah, tough one there.
Absolutely. Williamsburg over Hillsboro. McLean takes East Clinton. Eastern a winner over Fayetteville without question, 70-0.
63-0 at half.
Yeah, incredible. Miami Trace over Bethel Tate. Jackson picks up the win over Western Brown. Granville defeating Washington Courthouse, keeping them winless. Notre Dame picked up a win along with Liberty Union, South Point, and South Gallia. So that's how our games played out last week, and we can't wait to see what happens here in week number 5.
And don't forget, it's Military Appreciation Night at Southeastern Friday night. Veterans get in free.
Yes. For those of you that will be listening to the game on Litter Media Radio, we want you to especially listen at halftime.
Yeah, Southeastern graduate, now athletic director Chris Skaggs will be joining us, unless he gets hogtied with the veterans or something like that. But we're going to be talking about his former basketball coach, Larry Jordan, who passed away earlier this week. And Larry's funeral will be at 2 o'clock Sunday at the gymnasium named in his honor, Larry Jordan Gymnasium. I think viewing is 11 to 2. The funeral's at 2. Pastor John Evans, who was a former coach, athletic director, guidance counselor at Southeastern, he's officiating that service. So Chris will be up to relive some memories. I'm sure a few of them will be funny about Larry Jordan at halftime.
But certainly also we should mention that you will be participating as well, relating some stories about your history with Larry. And perhaps on this show we might have a segment before we wrap up to talk a little bit more about the legend, Larry Jordan. Coming up next, we'll hear from Scott Hurt, head coach of the Adena Warriors, and that is on the way as the Litter Media Game of the Week preview show continues.
Our financial lives have never been more complex, and some decisions just can't wait, which is why our K&B Mobility app gives you instant access to the financial tools you need wherever you are. Get a clear picture of all of your accounts, check your daily transactions, receive account alerts, and much more. So no matter where you are or what you are doing, you can make the best decisions for you and your financial goals. Download our Kingston National Bank Mobility app today.
Are you looking for a beer that satisfies your thirst and love of country? Armed Forces Brewing Company brews beer for patriots. Celebrate freedom with every sip. Armed Forces Brewing Company. Freedom never tasted so good.
Whenever I first applied for the ArchWiz opportunity, do I have to pay this back? Do I have to do that? Is it a loan? And it's not. It's a scholarship. A goal of mine is to graduate college debt-free. If you're a crew member, you get $2,500 a year, and if you're a manager, you get $3,000. And especially if you're going locally to college, to the branch or something like that, it's really helpful.
Mark came to the Adena Orthopedic and Spine Institute in severe arm pain from a degenerative disc. Minimally invasive spinal surgery got him back to what matters most. At Adena, we do what we love, so you can too.
Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, serving Central and Southern Ohio for more than 4 decades. Give them a call for your needs at Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
Litter Quality Propane is online all the time. Customer payment, account information, and more. Log on to litterpropane.com.
We're talking with Adena head coach Scott Hurt. Game of the week, of course. It's Military Appreciation Night at Southeastern High School as the Warriors take on the Panthers. Scott, a great start this year. Your first year back as head coach after a few years away. 2-0 start. But you've had some really tough competition the last 2 weeks. And just talk about the evolution of this team from week 1, now going into week 5.
Well, like you said, the first 2 weeks were right where I think after we came out of those games, we were feeling pretty good. But Amanda and Zane Trace are 2 different birds than the first 2. Not taking anything away from those teams, but those teams that we played the last 2 weeks have brought out our weaknesses. And exposed us a little bit, and hopefully we can get back learn from that and get back to where we were the first 2 weeks of the season for sure.
What do the Warriors do well on both sides of the ball in 2024?
Well, I think we've been pretty consistent. If you look at the first 2 games, we ran the ball well. We could try to continue to run the ball, but those teams shut us down with different fronts and their physicality for sure. That has something we need to get back to. Regardless of what's in front of us, we need to be able to just grind out yards. Our passing game was pretty solid the first 3 weeks. Last week we kind of struggled hanging on to the football and keeping teams honest and not packing the box so much. Defensively, we haven't been as spectacular, but we've been able to force teams to really work to score and drive the field on us and putting the onus on them. If they make a mistake, we're able to capitalize on it. So those 2 things have, one, we've got to get back to that. You know, Zane Trace went right down the field on us last week to start the game, and then we gave them a short field, and we had opportunities to maybe cut that lead in half late in the first half, but weren't able to do that. But those are the type of things that we've mentioned here tonight in practice that we need to get back to and take advantage of every little thing, because our margin of error is so small that we've got to be able to capitalize on certain things.
Do you feel like you can throw if you need to?
I really do. I think Darian is more than capable at quarterback. We've got, honestly, we've got 3 legitimate guys I think he can throw to, with Fisher and Joey and Colton at tight end. And we've hit Nathan out of the backfield a time or 2 and Pokey on waggle passes. So I think we can hit passes when we have to. We just got to be able to protect. And also we got to be able to run the ball. That sets up everything we do on the passing game for sure.
Your opponent, Southeastern, I've not seen him yet, but we were talking with Scott Tomlinson of Eastern Pike after we had them a couple of weeks ago, and they had Southeastern the following week. He felt like Southeastern was a very physical team. Now, that was a 13-8 game before Eastern pulled away with 20 unanswered points late.
Yeah, 13-8. I went down to that game. I was on a Saturday night. 8-0 at halftime or 7-0 at halftime, and their defense is very aggressive. They did give Eastern fits, and they've, if you look at the films that they've had that we've been able to exchange with them, those teams, even Paint Valley, struggled to run the ball on them consistently. Now they were able to chunk them a little bit later on in the game, but early on, Paint Valley had to do some things that normally they probably don't have to do, and that says a lot for the kids that are lining up and playing. Their linebackers are active, and their front four is going to occupy some people up front for sure. That's a challenge for us.
Scott Hurd of the Adena Warriors back with more of our Litter Media preview show right after this.
Our financial lives have never been more complex, and some decisions just can't wait, which is why our K&B Mobility app gives you instant access to the financial tools you need wherever you are. Get a clear picture of all of your accounts, check your daily transactions, receive account alerts, and much more. So no matter where you are or what you are doing, you can make the best decisions for you and your financial goals. Download our Kingston National Bank Mobility app today.
Find a career you love with Pickaway-Ross Adult Education. Skilled trades careers are in high demand with no signs of slowing down. Pickaway-Ross offers career training programs with expert instructors and hands-on learning tactics to create a variety of opportunities. Visit our website for more information.
At Country Clipper, pride runs deep. We take pride in knowing our mowers help create a space for families to make memories. That our features transform mowing into an enjoyable experience. Most importantly, we take pride in knowing the decision to purchase a Country Clipper will be one you can be proud of for years to come. Country Clipper zero-turn mowers.
Each week, we'll announce the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Intermedia Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union. And in December, we'll announce the Player of the Year. Nominate any amateur athlete by visiting littermedia.com and click on Player of the Week. You'll also see the players we've named throughout the year. Make your nomination today for the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Intermedia Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union.
And coming up later in the show, we will be announcing this week's Player of the Week, so stick close for that. What stood out in your mind from your conversation with Scott Hurt?
Well, it's the first time we didn't get to see Adena football at all last year.
Right.
Scott, this is his first year as head coach, and now many years ago he coached for a few years, but the gentleman they had last year stayed for only 1 year. So I feel like, I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago, and they felt like that they could maybe surprise some people. So they come out of the gate at 2-0 before losing their last two games, which was to Amanda, who beat Scioto, and then Zane Trace, who is one of the favorites in the league this year. He said the last couple of weeks in those losses, the physicality was tough on Adena. Mm-hmm. So they said they learned some things from that. He said a lot of the teams they've also played this year are using the screen pass. Now, we saw that last week a number of times where they're screening it out to the wide receiver. The slot man is coming up as the blocker. Mm-hmm. And I was saying, last week, the game we had, the slot man, which was the blocker, he committed a little bit early and kind of gave it away. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, we've been trying to work with our defense to look for some of those keys to see that coming. So we'll see if Southeastern pulls the screen pass out of the playbook, whether Adena has looked for some of those keys and can pick that off here in the early going.
We've seen the bubble screen before, but I don't know that I've ever seen the diamond alignment that Lancaster was making.
That was a new one for me, too. Yeah. I had never seen that before, but that was very unique.
It was, indeed. Despite losing 62-7 for Southeastern, falling to Paint Valley last week, our Aaron Glandon caught up with Coach Blair Garrett.
That's one of those names you could go either way.
You could go either way. But I visited with Coach Blair yesterday to talk about the state of his Southeastern Panthers heading into this contest.
Despite a 1-3 start, how have the Panthers improved this year?
I think some big things for us have been improving our defense. It's kind of crazy to say that after giving up 62 last week, and then 33 the week before and 40. But our defense has done a lot better job this year of that 41 against Madison Plains. Defense only gave up 21 of that. Last week I thought we gave Paint Valley good field position several times, and a good team like them, they took advantage of it. But from that perspective, I feel like defensively we have improved. It's just kind of trying to fix up the little things that we got to fix up, or what's going to make us continue to improve.
All right. You played an unbeaten Eastern tough at 13-8 before the Eagles closed with a 20-0 run. Was fatigue a factor in this situation?
I don't know if fatigue was the biggest factor. I think, a big difference between us and Eastern is you play a team that was undefeated. They went undefeated the year before. Those kids knew how to win. They knew how down the stretch to do the little things right. Like, that game going into half, we have an opportunity to tie the game. And, kind of some mental errors keep us from doing that. We got the ball on the 20-ish looking in a second to run a shot play. And, we kind of made a mistake that doesn't let us. We start the second half off giving them the ball on the 35 because of a penalty, our 35. So some stuff like that, man, is why, and I guess you could blame it on fatigue or you could just blame it on mental errors.
What do you think your team's biggest strengths are?
I think athletically we're just as good about anybody on our schedule, but it's putting it together, and you got kids like Gage Cheadle and Joey Piper and Lane Williams and Caleb Cutright. Those are good athletes, man.
What do you think the keys are for a win against Adena this week?
It's the keys to winning every week. We just got to be the best versions of ourselves. We got to do the things right and do what it takes to win. Controlling the ball, not putting the ball on the ground. That's been a struggle we've had for a couple weeks in a row. I want to say last week we had 5 turnovers. The week before we had 3 or 4. So it's limiting turnovers, trying to win field position. and limiting explosive plays and having explosive plays. Football's kind of a simple game if you just make it about those three things.
Very true. And when we think about that, how many times have you said to your team, guys, if we work together, it's this simple.
Yeah.
It can be a complex sport, but really, if you hang on to the football and you just get 10 yards during that possession, you're going to be standing pretty good there, I think.
I know when we had Eastern here a few weeks ago talking to Scott Tomlinson of the Eagles, looking ahead to their game with Southeastern, which was closed for a while, he was concerned about Southeastern's physicality. Mm-hmm. So Southeastern has some physical people, and it'll be interesting to see who can control that line of scrimmage. Of course, you could say that about any football game. But if you've got some big people up front that can move that defense around, you can hang on to that ball a long time and keep the other team off the field. So that'll be one of the things that I'll be looking for tomorrow night.
That and the food as well. Because there's going to be food. There's always food.
You mean we do
this
for food?
Yeah, absolutely.
Work for food.
Again, BJ Daly will join us back in the studio again, or in the booth, I should say, for this contest between Adena and Southeastern. And we appreciate Coach Garrett Blair getting together with us yesterday to have a chat about the Southeastern Panthers. In a moment, we will take a look at our memories of Larry Jordan. As Coach Jordan passed away earlier this week, details are coming up next as the Litter Media Game of the Week preview show continues.
As a professional race car driver, I live for speed, power, and performance on and off the track.
All right, well, here we go, baby. Wall on your left, three to your right, hard left, get on the gas, going for the win. There you go.
That's why I use the Dixie Chopper, the world's fastest lawnmower. Race into your local dealership today and test drive a new Dixie Chopper.
This is Andy Tomlinson. When insuring what's important to you, our agents are there when you need us the most. Tomlinson Insurance, for the best coverage at the best cost. Visit us online at tomlinsonins.com to learn more.
Serving our area for more than 4 decades, Accurate Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. If you click on any ad on our website, you'll find more information. AccurateHVAC.com.
Find a career you love with Pickaway-Ross Adult Education. Skilled trades careers are in high demand with no signs of slowing down. Pickaway-Ross offers career training programs with expert instructors and hands-on learning tactics to create a variety of opportunities. Visit our website for more information.
Litter Quality Propane, custom tank colors and wraps. Find out how a propane tank can be beautiful at litterpropane.com. We lost a legend this week, and you knew him far better than I did, Mike, but we probably knew each other just about as long. But Larry Jordan, longtime basketball coach at Southeastern High School. Of course, he went down to my territory, down to Waverly, coached there for a while after his days at Southeastern was done. And then his last head coaching position was at Western, the school district that I live in. And, of course, his son Chad has been down there for a number of years, and I think Mike has been involved too, hasn't he?
Yes.
In the way of coaching. So you can say everything you want about this man as a basketball player and coach, but he was more than that off the court.
I remember one, this would have been back when they were playing in the big metal gymnasium. That's between the old gym at Richmondale and the current site. And after the game, of course, Tom and I were just ready to roll and get out of there. And Larry said, why don't you stick around? We're having some pizza, and we're just going to sit around and chat. So we did, and that was, golly, that had to be 25 to 30 years ago.
Say late 80s?
And some of the stories that Larry told about when he played as well as when he coached. I mean, things that I'd never heard before. That was just hilarious. I think I can tell this one. There was a story when Larry played. He, of course, the great Elwood Strauss ball was on that team, among Jim Rucker, number of other great athletes on that team. I think they got all the way to the regionals before losing to Dresden Tri-Valley. That's a game that I think a lot of Southeastern fans felt in 1964, I believe, that they should have won and probably going on to the state tournament, but didn't happen. But Park Prater was their coach when this happened. And Elwood was a great shooter, great outside shooter. Of course, the gymnasiums back then were much smaller than what they are now. And Elwood was taking more than his share of shots, everybody thought. So the guys got together and said, we're not passing the ball to Elwood. So they come out, and they literally, it was like 4 guys on the floor, and Elwood's over there in the corner, and timeout or at halftime, Park Prater, the coach, says, why aren't you guys throwing the ball to Elwood? And he said, when Elwood throws it at us, we'll throw it back to him. But I remember they were talking about Buckskin Gymnasium, which at that time it was Buckskin High School. Mm. And, of course, Larry was not the only tall guy on that team. But Larry said we were running a 1-3-1 zone. Well, the 3 in the middle, they said when they stretched their arms out in that 3 pattern of the 1-3-1 zone, their hands were touching wall to wall in that gymnasium. There's no way you can get around that. But just a couple of many funny stories that they told, or that Larry told that night, that many, many years later, I still remember some of those.
Loved his wife, loved his kids, loved his grandkids. Mm-hmm. And
loved to fish. Yeah. He loved to fish.
Last conversation I had with Larry that I recall was at the Ross County Fairgrounds. And I had come walking out of the rabbit barn, mm-hmm. and he was standing around outside, and I said, Larry, good to see you. How you been? And we chatted up a little bit. And then I said, what are you doing here? He says, granddaughter, got some rabbits. We're going to watch rabbits. Yeah. So.
One of his former players, who I had been kind of spending a lot of time with here recently, told a story, and I can just picture this. Larry liked Tic Tacs.
Yeah.
Well, he would be eating these Tic Tacs in the game, and he said I'd come off the sideline and he'd be yelling at me, and he said those Tic Tacs were spraying all over my face. Yeah. Well, one of the managers, our former pastor, the late Fred Fox, was helping as a manager for mm-hmm. Southeastern at that time. A lot of people don't realize Fred did that in college.
Is that
at
right?
Indiana? It wasn't Indiana Wesleyan back then. It was Marion College.
Okay.
But he was the basketball manager when he was in school, so he's kind of reliving that. But anyway, this kid was telling me, I won't use his name so it won't incriminate him. Fred knew this was happening, so the next time Fred gives this young player a towel to put over his head, because Larry had taken him out of the game, and Larry looked down at the sign and said, get that blanket towel off your head. But he said, I was using it to keep Coach Jordan from spitting those Tic Tacs.
It was a shield.
Yeah. But when he told, I said, I can just picture Larry doing that.
You know, Larry had the old school style of coaching, and he wasn't afraid to get a hold of you on the bench, but he also was not afraid to get up off that bench and go high-stepping down in front of it when something was going on that he didn't agree with.
Oh, yeah.
But super, super, super nice guy. And our thoughts are certainly with the family, but also with the whole, really, it's beyond the SVC. Oh, yeah. I mean, here's a Ohio High School Athletic Association, Coaches Association, Hall of Famer and everything too. So many people knew that man, and will most likely be there Saturday for his funeral. Sunday for his funeral at 2:00. And again, that'll take place at the Larry Jordan Gymnasium at Southeastern High School. Coming up, we're going to tip a cap to the Player of the Week. Details coming up next.
This is Andy Tomlinson. When ensuring what's important to you, our agents are there when you need us the most. Tomlinson Insurance, for the best coverage at the best cost. Visit us online at tomlinsonins.com to learn more.
I was looking for a first job. I had been babysitting and decided it was something for a little more permanent. It pays very well. It's convenient. You can make your own schedule with the flexibility. That's something that I like. The people that I work with are great. I wouldn't ask for a better crew or management team to work for.
Pain was interfering with Tiffany's active lifestyle. Same-day hip replacement at the Adena Orthopedic and Spine Institute got her back to the community she calls home. At Adena, we do what we love, so you can too.
Are you looking for a beer that satisfies your thirst and love of country? Armed Forces Brewing Company brews beer for patriots. Celebrate freedom with every sip. Armed Forces Brewing Company. Freedom never tasted so good. Each week, we'll announce the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Litter Media Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union. And in December, we'll announce the Player of the Year. Nominate any amateur athlete by visiting littermedia.com and click on Player of the Week. You'll also see the players we've named throughout the year. Make your nomination today for the Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Litter Media Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union.
And time to announce who that Player of the Week is, and it is Gabby Maranzana, and she is a freshman at Chillicothe High School. This weekend, she won the Southeastern Aaron Reed Memorial Cross Country Meet by over 1.5 minutes. She's a freshman. So far this season, she has had 2 first-place finishes at Circleville and Southeastern, a second-place finish at St. Trace, a third-place finish at Pickerington North. And Gabby ran cross-country in middle school at Bishop Leger during her 7th and 8th grade years. She won 23 out of 24 meets that she participated in and set multiple course records wherever she went.
Someone told you, I think when she was in junior high, keep an eye on this kid.
Keep an eye on this kid. She's going to be something. And today we're keeping an eye on her and tipping our cap to our Neil Coleman Insurance Wyandotte Mutual Litter Media Player of the Week, presented by Homeland Credit Union. If you'd like to see all of the Players of the Week so far for 2024, you'll find that at littermedia.com. Give me a moment. I have yet to update it with Gabby's information, so we will have that for you. And if you want to make a nomination, littermedia.com, where it says Player of the Week, click on that, and you'll be able to find our email address to send us your nomination. It is week number 5 of the high school football season. We say this every year.
It's the midway point.
Yeah, we are at the midway point. Where is the first half of the season gone already? But we're back at it again at Southeastern High School with the Adena Warriors and the Panthers going at it. Both teams 0-1 in conference play, but since they took ties out, that's going to change.
That's going to change Friday night.
Certainly will. So for Aaron Glandon, who set our show up today,
yes,
but was not here. He had to go to another appointment. We appreciate his efforts on that. And for Mike Smith, I'm Dan Ramey. You've been watching the Litter Media Game of the Week preview show here on Litter Media.